Tonight, I have the privilege of introducing the final keynote speaker of the 2020 Pixels of Production Conference. Amberly was born in California as the second to six children. Amberly fell in love with horses at a young age and began barrel racing when her family moved to Utah at her age of 7. She competed in junior rodeos and up into high school, winning multiple titles and awards. Her senior year, she finished as a National Little Bridges World All-Around Cowgirl. Amberly was also serving as a Utah State FFA president in 2009. In January of 2010, Amberly was involved in a rollover truck accident, leaving her paralyzed from the waist down. 18 months after that day, with a seatbelt on her saddle, she returned to competing in rodeo. She now competes in the Women's Professional Rodeo Association in barrel racing. Amberly has earned her place competing amongst professional barrel racers and has won multiple awards with the Cowboy and Cowgirl Hall of Fames. In 2018, Netflix released a movie based on her life titled Walk, Ride, Rodeo, where Amberly was able to be her own stunt double for the film. Amberly shares her story of triumph over tragedy, hoping she can motivate others to believe in themselves and get back on the horse. Without further ado, I turn things over to Amberly.
I am super excited to be here. I'm going to share my screen so I can get everybody. This is my first time doing like a digital background, and that was crazy to pick what I wanted behind me. So I kind of settled on my horse heads because I think that was pretty cool to have. I've got Legacy right there and I've got Power right there. So anyway, I am going to just jump right in. Before I really tell any stories, I want to start by sharing with you a video that my mom and my sister put together that really shows what I've gone through with my horses from the time I was little until I ran in the American I'm going to start by telling you all a story about my first date. Now, I don't know how old we all are on here, but those of us who are old enough to have had our first date, however long ago it was, I want you to think about for a minute. Were you nervous? If you say no, you're lying, because even if you think you are a stud muffin, you will be nervous on your first date. So I was going on my first date in a wheelchair, and I'll tell you what, I was nervous. I was thinking there were so many things that could go wrong. Well, we go out to dinner, and so far everything is pretty great. I mean, I'm looking great. He's looking great. We're looking great together at this point. We come outside the restaurant, and lo and behold, there is this curb. Now, I know how to go down a curb. You get in a wheelie, you get right up next to it, you pop around down. Pretty simple, right? Now, before I can continue this story, I need to make sure we're all on the same page in here. So, gentlemen, if you're in the room, if not, us ladies know, in all times, in all things, and in all places, whether a man is around or not, it is always their fault. So I'm in a wheelie, I'm getting ready for this curb, and this boy says, "Hey, Am, do you need any help?" Well, I have gone 18 years of my life being very independent. I mean, my first horse was a pony at 5 years old, so I could saddle it by myself. And now here I am in this situation where I need a lot of help. Made me pretty frustrated. So I told that boy, "No, I've got this." But of course, he distracted me. So one wheel went down before the other. When that happens in a wheelchair, you flip over. So here I am flipped over on my back thinking, oh my gosh, my nightmare just came true. That boy looks at me and says, "So do you need any help now?" I said, "Yeah, I'm gonna need your help to get back up." So he comes in front of me and puts out his hand. I said, that's not going to work. Now, I don't blame him. This poor boy, he doesn't know if he should be laughing, crying, or pretending like he didn't see this happen. So I said, okay, I call it a princess carry. You're going to need to put one arm underneath my knees, one arm behind my back, and pick me up. I thought for sure he was strong enough for this task. Lesson learned, he was a bull rider. So he comes over, he puts one arm underneath my knees, one arm behind my back, and he does in fact pick me up. But then we both look back down at my wheelchair, still flipped over. His solution at this point is to kick at my wheelchair. He's kicking at it. He finally gets it up. The brakes weren't on. So it starts rolling across this parking lot. Just picture this. Boy carrying girl chasing a wheelchair across the parking lot. This is what is happening on my first date. I am freaking out. We finally get my wheelchair caught. He steps me down on my chair, and only then does this couple walk out of the restaurant. So I thought, okay, this has to be funny for me now, right? So I look at that couple. I look at that boy. I turned back to that couple and said, "Can you believe this kid? He just dumped me out of my wheelchair." He was petrified. But I will tell you what, that was an experience where I was literally knocked down. I mean, I was laying on my back in this parking lot. I needed the help, but I was able to get back up. There's going to be experiences in all of our lives where we are that person that's knocked down. We are that person that needs that help. Don't be afraid to ask for it when you need it. I feel like our society tries to tell us that asking for help makes us weak in one way or another. But think about how you feel when you get to help someone. Why keep that from another person? It's okay to ask for help and always be willing to offer. So now I want to tell you guys about one of my favorite years of life, is what I call it, which was 2009. In Utah, you can run for a leadership position the year you graduate and the Utah FFA Association. So I ran against 26 other members, not only was elected, but was elected as the Utah FFA state president. During my year of office, I traveled out to different high schools and realized how much I loved to teach. I ended up getting my undergrad in agricultural education and then even my master's in school counseling. I mean, I discovered I had a gift with those kids. Secondly, I was competing in rodeo. So I've been riding horses since I was 3 years old. I've been competing in rodeo since I was 7. I mean, I can tell you it's not what I do, it's a part of who I am. So 2009, I made it to the National High School Finals, which only the top 4 in every event can make it to. And then the week later, I went to the National Little Britches Finals and came home with everything in that bottom picture. 2 saddles, 11 buckles, and a finals and world all-around title. Only one person gets to leave the world all-around cowgirl, and that year it was me. So I'm telling you what, I'm on top of the world. I can't even imagine life being any better. Icing on the cake, I'd graduated high school at 4.0, which was a goal I'd always had. Not only applied to colleges and was accepted, but was offered scholarships. So for me at 18, life was perfect. I mean, I wouldn't change a thing. Well, this picture right here, this is January 10th, 2010 at a little after 10 o'clock in the morning. I'd been offered a job in Denver, Colorado, and was going there to work for a couple of weeks during the stock show. I left Logan, Utah at about 4:30 in the morning to start my drive. I stopped in Rollins, Wyoming at a gas station, and when I got back in my truck, I made a decision that definitely changed my entire life. I wear my seatbelt all the time. I mean, my truck will ding at me if I don't have it on. But this morning I'd had a stomachache all morning and I thought, I'm going to take it off just for a minute. That's where this picture comes in. This is right when I got back in my truck in Rollins. Less than 10 miles down the road, I was going through Sinclair, Wyoming, when I looked down to check my map. When I looked up, I'd faded over lane and was heading towards middle beam on the side of the road. I grabbed my wheel to correct my truck, but it just sent me sliding across this highway. I thought, if I can keep my truck from rolling, I'll be okay. So I grabbed my wheel with both hands and I'm bringing my truck back straight. And for a moment, I thought, okay, I've got this. Right then, my back right tire caught the joint of on the side of this highway and pulled me completely sideways. So at 75 miles an hour, my truck is picking up off the ground to start rolling. At 18 years old inside of it, I thought, this is it. I mean, I'm going to die right here and there's absolutely nothing I can do about it. I closed my eyes and I can hear the banging, crashing going on around my head. I felt myself pick up and leave through my window. At 70 miles an hour, I had this on the side of the highway. I had it across my stomach, folded around it, broke it off, and carried it another 20 feet with that fence. When I opened up my eyes, I saw my truck. I thought, I'm so glad I'm not in there. If I had been in there, maybe I wouldn't be here. So I didn't get knocked out during this entire thing. So as I'm sitting on this side of this highway, I thought I better do a self-evaluation, right? I'd landed in this snowbank with my feet out in front of me. I felt my head first. I was thinking, okay, I remembered everything. I thought I must be all right there. I looked at my hands next. Move my fingers. They were all right. Last, I looked at my feet. Tried to move my toes. Nothing happened. I started pinching and rubbing at my legs to try to feel something, but all I felt like is I was in warm water from the waist down. I knew something was truly wrong. But I had to wait. I had to wait till somebody came and found me. The first person shows up. asked me what happened. I told him I rolled my truck and he got on the phone with 911. This second man is walking up to me and I said, I had a blanket in the passenger side of my truck. I don't feel cold, but I've got to be going into shock. The third woman is walking up to me and I asked her if she had a phone. I said, I've got to call somebody. So I decided to call my dad. This is how this phone call goes to my dad. Hey, Dad. He said, hey. Said, so I got in a car accident. He said, okay, how bad? I said, pretty bad. I rolled my truck. He said, are you okay? I said, I can't feel my legs. He said, Amberly, are you paralyzed? I said, Dad, I don't know. I'm just telling you that I can't feel my legs. At that point, the cop showed up to this accident site. So I told him I had to go. They loaded me in the ambulance and they took me back to Rollins, which is where I discovered what my back looked like. I'm laying on this hospital table and the doctor walks in, and I don't think he was talking to me, but he starts talking about being paralyzed. I said, whoa, wait a minute. What are the chances of me feeling or moving my legs again? He said, slim to none, but more to the none, and left the room. So at 18 years old, I'm laying on that table by myself, trying to take in that information. I mean, how am I going to finish my year of office? How am I going to ride my horses? I can't spend the rest of my life in a wheelchair. They loaded me in a life flight helicopter and they took me to Casper, Wyoming, where I went through 5 hours of surgery, which definitely left me with a whole lot of hardware on my back. When I woke up from surgery, my mom was there and she said, you know, within an instant, I'd gone from this girl, right? The girl with the world at her fingertips, to this girl. Neck brace, broken back, on oxygen, can't feel my legs. Not sure what the rest of my life is supposed to hold. So I spent 10 days there in Casper before I was finally strong enough to fly back to Utah for my physical therapy. My very first day of therapy, my nurse walks in my room. She says, Amberly, we need to set some goals. I told her, easy. Walk, ride, rodeo. She looked at me like, girl, you have no idea how hard this is about to be. Now, she was right. I had to set smaller goals like being able to move myself from my chair to a bed, learning how to wheelie, or even to get dressed in the morning or brush my hair. I mean, everything was hard. But I set those smaller goals so I could get to my bigger ones. Walking was the first one. Now, I didn't leave that hospital walking like I planned on, but I do have leg braces, a standing frame, and a track chair that make it possible for me to at least be on my feet. Not perfect, but it's okay for now. But I want to tell you a story. So in December of 2009, my dad was coaching baseball in Hawaii, and he asked me to come out there for a little bit before he came home for the holidays. So of course I went. And every morning we would walk along the beach. One of those mornings, I was fascinated with my footprints in the sand. So I took a picture. Pretty insignificant, I know. We've all seen our footprint somewhere. Maybe in snow or dirt or mud or crap, depending on where you live. Well, for me, this little insignificant picture took on a very different meaning only a few weeks later. I have learned that our lives are full of little moments, encounters, experiences, accomplishments. Please don't ever take yours for granted, because you never know when those little moments are going to become some of the biggest parts of your story. So I started recording my little moments, my little accomplishments in videos I called Wheelchair Wednesdays. where I would record how I did things in my chair. Well, I want to share with you one of my most favorite Wheelchair Wednesday discoveries.
This is my rope horse Wrangler. He's shorter than my barrel horse. If you guys have been following my Wheelchair Wednesdays, you know that. So at some point I'll try it on my barrel horse, but right now it's just on Wrangler. So granted, this is only like my 4th time doing this, so we're still a little rusty, but anyway, it's still pretty cool. So in order to do it, I have to reach up on this ladder that's on my trailer, reach my saddle horn, pull myself up, and I can land on the saddle. So it's gonna work.
So I will tell you what, that was something I did not even know I was capable of until it happened. I think some of the coolest things we will do in our whole lives is when we work hard and go outside of our comfort zone. You know, when we think we've reached that limit, and then we take one more step. So it was 4 months after my accident when I finally convinced my mother and doctors that I was ready to go outside of my comfort zone and get to my second goal, which was riding. Now, I wish I could tell you that that first time back on that horse was the greatest day of my life, but I cannot lie to you. That day was harder for me than the day they told me I would never walk again. Because in that moment, I realized every part of my life really was different. But I went through the modifications that first summer. Started with a seatbelt on my saddle we could out of a junkyard car, Velcro straps around my legs, a nylon strap across my left hip, and I sit on a seat of air like my wheelchair seat. All of these pieces hold me center, balanced, and protected in that saddle. So I rode a little bit throughout first summer, but then I had experience that made me pretty frustrated. I mean, frustrated enough that I told my mom, sell my horses. I said, if I can't train them like I used to, I'm not going to have them. Now, of course, my mother knew best and she did not sell my horses. But I did go 9 months without them. Now, I had to put a pin in that story because I want to tell you a different one. So I've always joked with people that it doesn't matter if a horse bucks with me because I'm strapped in. I cannot fall off. Well, a couple years ago, I was on a 4-year-old horse and she got scared, and when she got scared, she whirled. Well, my balance is the hardest thing I still deal with, and it kind of threw me off on the side of her, which then scared her again, and she decided to buck. For about 40 seconds, that mare had me whiplashed on the side of her, and by that night, this was me. Definitely not my plan when I figured I couldn't get bucked off. Well, 2 days after this, I decided I'm getting back on one of my horses, and no, not her, a different one. I decided I'm going to get on Maximus. He's my trusty steed. He's my rope horse. He's the one that won't get scared. Well, this day as I'm riding him, a little bird flies out and he gets scared. Now, nothing bad happened, except for in that moment, my heart sank. I have never been scared on a horse's back in my life. And right then, I was terrified. I went home, I got off of Max, and I thought, this is it. This is the end of the Amberly Snyder story. You can't ride horses and be scared. They know. Now, this is where I get to brag on my family a little bit. I come from an amazing family. I don't even think they get enough credit. But in my family, baseball is kind of a big deal. My dad was a Major League Baseball player for 8.5 years. My brothers both played, and my one brother still plays with the Colorado Rockies. In the sport of baseball, you will fail more often than you will ever succeed, because you will strike out more often than you will ever hit a home run. But knowing that doesn't keep these players from walking up to home plate. So I thought, Amberly, You have been raised better than this. You've had parents who have made you be better than this. I'll tell you what, you never realized how close you were to success when you gave up. One of the things that I have learned is that if you're not willing to turn that page, if you're not willing to take another step, do you know how far you can go? So for me, that couldn't be the end, right? After those 9 months, that couldn't be the end. So I was able to get back on after those 9 months and get to my last goal, which was rodeo. And I have had amazing experiences back in that arena. I want to introduce you to some of my horses. So the horse on the bottom, that's Maximus. That's my rope horse that I told you about. The horse on the top right, his name is Legacy, or Legs for short. Legacy is the horse I run now. He is the horse that has allowed me to outrun myself from when my legs worked. We are the only paralyzed barrel racer in the entire United States. So we don't get our own category. I will admit sometimes I wish we did, because then we would win a lot more often. But that horse has truly allowed me to be competitive again. I even want to show you a run that we made over Labor Day this year in Las Vegas. There was 1,800 runs made, and we were the second fastest of the entire weekend and first fastest of our day. So I will tell you what, that horse has given me a whole new sense of really, we get to decide what we are capable of. But I have to introduce you to the famous horse. His name is Power. Power is the first horse I got back on after my accident in the barrel racing world. Power is the one that truly did give me my freedom back. He is the horse that we ran in the American in 2015. He is the horse that, well, made us famous enough that Netflix made a movie about our story that came out March of last year. So I want to show you the trailer to that movie. Now, I was my own stunt double in that movie, but I didn't play myself. Would have been pretty tricky to be my pre-accident self. But I want to show you the trailer to that movie.
If we play this right, we have a real shot at Rookie of the Year.
That's a first place finish for Kimberly Snyder.
Why don't you call me when you get to the hotel? Mom. Thanks. I'm sorry. What's that?
Learn to love that chair. That is your freedom.
Maybe you could do something other than rodeo.
Rodeo is who I am. Baba, get over here. Mom, will you promise me that I'll ride again? If I have to strap you in that saddle myself.
This is our hand.
We don't always get to choose what happens to us, but we do get to choose what we do next.
So it is on Netflix called Walk Ride Rodeo. If you have seen it, thank you. If you haven't, get it together. It's there to watch. I was asked the other day, well, it's probably been a couple years now, if I still get nervous to speak. I'll tell you, I only get nervous if it's to the elementary school monsters or children or whatever we call them. One day I was just getting done with this speech and the kids were able to ask me questions. Well, there was this tiny little second grader on the front row raising his hand so politely. I called on him expecting that horse's name, favorite color question. But he asked, if you could go back to that day and change it, would you? I will tell you what, up to this point, I had never been asked that. And here was this tiny little boy wondering. The first thing I wanted to say was, yes. Absolutely, without a doubt. Why would I want to spend any time in a wheelchair? But then I thought about the good things, the places I've been, the people I've met, the opportunities I've been given because of my silly chair. I couldn't trade those. So I told that group of kids, no. I'm a true believer in everything happens for a reason. There's a reason I'm in this chair and I'm going to serve that purpose. And by the way, I have no doubt in my mind I'm going to walk. It's not if, it's just when. But there will be moments in all of our lives where maybe we don't understand why. Maybe we don't understand the reason behind a challenge that we're facing or even a loved one is facing. Those are the moments we have to trust. We have to trust that there's a purpose, that there's a reason behind that challenge. But if there is one thing I want to leave you with, the next time you might be in that moment of weakness or doubt or fear, dig a little deeper. Find that light in the darkness. Lean on your loved ones for support, as there is no future in giving up. Thanks for letting me talk with you guys today. And I know we get to have some time for questions, so I'm excited for those.
Some fantastic questions here. Thank you so much for sharing your story with us. Our first question that was sent in, do you do any special training with your horses so that they're okay with a person in a wheelchair on the ground?
Good question. So I've had to be a little more particular about what horses are actually like my friends, because some horses are really good and other horses can be kind of difficult. So I really try to be pretty careful around them on the ground. If they end up getting a little bit hot, even Power can, I definitely hand him off. But Legacy, for example, when I bought him, for the first couple weeks, I would put his hay in the corner of my stall and then I would sit there and right by the hay, and he would go up and he'd get a bite of hay and then he'd go back to the corner of his stall. He did not want anything to do with me. He's much better now, but it's just, I mean, I think when they realize, you know, that I'm still a person and it shares just an extension, then they learn how to handle it.
Excellent. So follow-up question then, are your horses specially trained, or do you do more special training with them regarding hand and upper body signals instead of leg or lower body signals?
Yes. So, I mean, when it comes to being on their back, they all pay attention to my hands. They just ignore my legs. You can actually ride them with your legs. So it's kind of funny. It's kind of like a hand control car where you have the hand controls in it, but you still can drive with your feet. My horses are very similar to that. They know when I'm on to just ignore what my legs are doing, pay attention to my hands and my voice. So when it comes to, you know, a barrel race or even training, they're pretty good about that. Like I said, not every horse is for me anymore. There are some that recognize, I guess, my weaknesses and they take advantage of them. You know, they're just not meant for me. The ones that stick around and are the horses that I keep and I run and I see success on are the ones that don't feel like that. You know, I feel like they just want to please me and they want to do their job. Thanks for that question.
Excellent. Well, thank you. So, okay, we've got a question here. Someone's son would particularly like to ask, what was your fastest run?
My fastest run. So there is different size patterns all over the nation, depending on how big the arena is. So what we would call a standard sets, that's what you see at a lot of pro rodeos. My fastest time on a standard set is a 17.0 seconds. But on like a tiny, there's a pretty small pattern that is in Utah. My fastest time is a 13.6 in that pen. So it just depends on the arena.
Excellent. Wow. I'm just mind boggled at how fast that is. So we've been talking a bit about ergonomic tools and tools that work for you. So how do you find tools that work for you? Is it a lot of trial and error, or do you have a particular place you like to go?
You know, what was one of the craziest things, and I made a post by this the other day on my social media, is there wasn't like a reference guide for me. I was the first one to do what I do, and I'm still the only one in the United States. There's one other girl in Australia that we visited after her accident, and now she runs barrels over there. But there wasn't like a resource for me. You know, there wasn't a, hey, let me call and ask someone how they did this. It was very much trial and error. You know, the tools that go with my saddle, the tools to get to do what I do. I mean, it's just trial and error of what works and what doesn't. Of course, I've had resources. You know, I have an action track chair, and that has been awesome. I have a free wheel that can go on the front of my wheel to help. You know, I have those pieces for sure. But as far as the actual horse side of it, I mean, that has been a trial and error. What works, keep doing it. What doesn't, let's change it.
Excellent. Well, so I've got another question. I guess it's a follow-up. So is there a place that you like to get those kind of tools?
I mean, for me, the stuff that's on my saddle has all been made at home with us. As far as outside resources, I've honestly just been very lucky to have people reach out to me on social media. And look that way. Some of them have come through therapy references, Agribility. Like I said, with Action Track Chair and my free will, that, you know, those are pieces that we've been able to put together since my accident. And I guess maybe I'm a terrible person that I don't have a really great answer, but so far I've just been really lucky with the people that have reached out to me with ideas and have really helped me get to where I'm at.
Well, I think that says a lot. You know, you've got to find out what works for you. So excellent. All right. So we had another question come in. Thanks for sharing your story. The relationship that we have with our horses can obviously be very special. Do you think the fact that you ride and rodeo with horses helped you stay motivated? And if so, how? And we'd love to hear how your Wheelchair Wednesdays helped others.
So I'll tell this story. Like I was actually at a wedding about a year ago for one of my brother's friends. And I was sitting next to this mom. And this mom had actually lost her son less than a month prior. So I'll be honest. I mean, I didn't know what to say to this mom, just in general with conversation. I knew I had known her son. He'd been really good friends with my brothers. And she just randomly through dinner turned to me and said, "How did you do it? How did you do it? And my son couldn't." And I didn't know what to say to her. I mean, her son had taken his life, and I knew that there was such a hard, obviously, situation that went along with that. So I really quick just said, okay, God, I need to have an answer of what I'm supposed to say here. And what came to me is family, faith, and my horses. That's what I had. And I think if I'd only had two, it wouldn't have been enough. So if you ask me, you know, do I feel like that the riding and the rodeo with the horses helped me stay motivated? Not just motivated, but honestly surviving. I mean, I feel like between my family and my faith and those horses, that is the reason that I can even sit in front of you today. That is the reason that I still have the life that I have. And I mean, it is the reason that I think I still have a smile on my face. So 100%. I mean, they gave me life that I didn't know where else to get it. Then the follow-up question was about Wheelchair Wednesday.
Oh, yeah.
I haven't done those in a while. I actually got really busy when the movie came out, and I know that's no good excuse because that's been over a year ago, but I've been busy with some other projects. I'm actually going to, I just got done filming kind of a little more in-depth Wheelchair Wednesday. It's going to be, I think, 8 episodes that will come through my social media as well as my YouTube channel, that it's kind of more in depth in the life of Amberly Snyder. It's actually titled I've Got Wheels. And I'm hoping people will enjoy those. They'll come out in January, so keep an eye out.
All right, we've got something to keep us interested as we stay here in lockdown. or in these COVID times. Definitely something to look forward to. Thank you. We've got one more question. Your strength workout must be so disciplined. Would you mind sharing what a typical workout looks like?
Great question. So I'm going to be honest. I didn't even take PE in high school. There was no workout for me. But when I was finally at home, let me tell you why. Okay. The reason why I didn't work out when I was younger is if you drive by somebody who's running on the side of the road, they never look happy. And so I figure if they're not happy and they're committed to be out there, why do I even want to start running? So I just never was an exercise person. But when I was home during quarantine, I thought, okay, you know what? I have time, right? I'm not traveling to speak. I feel like I can have time to put my physical well-being as more of a focus. So I started doing CrossFit, and those workouts, they'll kick your butt. So I have been doing training with that. I feel like it's helped my balance a ton with my riding and even just in general. It's helped, all of even what is already strong. I have a pretty strong upper body, but I feel like it's even toned it in to make it so that it's even better than it was. I think my balance in my core was the main focus for me that I've seen the biggest difference. As far as even therapy, we would say with my legs, I try to stand every day for at least an hour to a couple hours, which it can't really build my muscles because you can't build muscles that don't fire, but it definitely helps my bones stay strong and just my mental well-being with being able to be upright. I also have a few therapy modalities that I help with them as well, just to stay healthy and out of pain. Yeah, I think overall, that's probably the answer.
Fantastic. I've heard so much about CrossFit, and I'm not going to lie, I agree with you. When I see those people running, they just don't look happy.
No, they don't. And I'm like, life's too short to be miserable. So I'm going to stick with being happy.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, thank you so much. Those are the questions that have come in so far. We'll continue to take questions and send those later as we get them.
Okay, yeah, please do. And thank you guys so much for being on. Of course, if you had a question that you didn't want to ask, you can reach out to me on any of my social media, my Facebook, my Instagram. I always answer those personally. So if there was something here that you didn't want to ask, feel free to reach out to me there.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.